2 hours max, maybe 30, 45 minutes. It took me about 36 hours to do just 3 patients because the imaging, we need some form of x-ray to see where we are at because it's a closed heart procedure. And their x-ray system was overheating. So let me make an example. Let's say maybe in South Africa, there's like 300 cardiologists. I'm making an example. There'll be only 20 electrophysiologists. And I like saying this because it's important. While my field, we make a difference, if you are a relatively poor country, that's not where government should invest money. Welcome to episode 5 of Rhythm Unplugged. I'm here with a guy from Creative Replay.
Yes,
Apparently,
yes.
I've got AFHRA, Creative Collective. It's the tongue twister.
Hey, I need to make it simple.
I think you have to make it simple. Okay. Anyway, I think the main reason for our podcast today is to introduce you to an umbrella mother group of ours as electrophysiologists, heart rhythm managing doctors. We formed this group in 2019, few months or a few weeks before COVID,
Sure.
2019 in Kenya. It's basically a collection of electrophysiologists, which is the heart rhythm managing doctors. Very few of us, maybe now we're 15 in South Africa. The whole continent, we still sparsely distributed, very few of us. So it's driven mainly by doctors in Africa, as well as people from Africa of African origin diaspora, and largely in UK and US, and largely driven by our brothers and sisters from Nigeria, which brings me to my second last trip. I went to Lagos under the auspices of AFHRA. So AFHRA stands for African Heart Rhythm Association. Almost all continents, if not all of them, have got this continental group of doctors. And the major aim for this is really empowering each other, helping our patients do better, skills transfer. And for us in Africa, because there is a huge disparity between those who have countries like those we have and those who don't.
Yeah.
If you look at the map where you can get heart rhythm management, meaning doing a procedure for these rhythm disorders, it would be mainly Egypt, Morocco, I think Algeria. We provide service for Kenya in Nairobi, South Africa, I think in Namibia. That's just about it. I may have forgotten 1 or 2 countries, but you can see I can count them basically in one hand. So the major aim now is for expose young doctors who want to specialize in this field, so that they can help their own patients in their own respective countries, and also offer a service. So whereby those who can, from South Africa, from Egypt, from overseas, to come to the continent and help and do procedures.
Who decided, hey, there's a need, let's form this body of AFHRA?
Yeah, so like in other organizations, we have these annual meetings or congresses where we publish our data, we listen to our colleague, we get taught on new technology, you teach others on your innovation. So we will be meeting, it's twice a year, one in Europe and one in USA. So most of us have trained overseas, so we will meet your old friends and then kind of like hook up, and then eventually like what's happening back home. And then that's how we decide, okay, there's few of us, we can do this. So we said, okay, we need to formalize it and form this African Heart Rhythm Association group for transfer of skills. And at the heart of this transfer of skills, obviously, is the patient. So to go and do these procedures, I primarily go to Kenya. I've been to Cairo. I'll be going back soon. Uganda. Going to reignite that relationship. So the guys, for instance, who are from Nigeria, they tend to go to Nigeria. The guys who are from Morocco, who live maybe in France, will go to Morocco. But now we're able to say, look, you don't have to go to your own motherland country. We need you in South Africa. We need you in Namibia. We need you in Algeria. We need you in Sudan. So we help each other.
So these doctors, it's not that all of them are residing in Africa.
Oh, most of them aren't.
Oh.
Yeah. So most of them are overseas.
So meaning within other African countries, there's not that many electrophysiologists or people who maybe specialize that stay within Africa.
Yeah, that's a sadness of the status quo. I guess you have to accept when you're poor that when people get educated and get exposed, they tend to stay in those countries. We don't have training centers in Africa, period. We may have areas of antidote training. That means it's not structured and it doesn't have a history of training people. So a lot of electrophysiologists from the continent have trained outside Africa. I trained in Canada, for instance, and then I could have stayed in Canada. I had opportunities to do that, but you realize that probably you need it back home. And we've got a beautiful, I must say, weather. Before I went overseas, I didn't know this, why people were always talking about weather until you're in that country. You realize that, yeah. So one of the things that made me come back was good weather, but also thinking that I'll make a difference, which I think I have. So a lot of us would have been exposed to first world countries where we train, and because there are better opportunities there, then people stay there. So it's a brain drain, and other people have even spoken about, you know what, we owe it to Africa, because wherever you train, whether your parents paid your tuition at tertiary level, the government always subsidize public colleges, public universities. So when you get this brain drain, really you're taking away from an already poor country, because if the government invests, let's say, 100 million rands on X number of people and half of them don't come back, that was a waste on the part of the government, right?
Yeah.
So a part of AFHRA is to redress that and see how we can help and do these procedures for our patient by our doctors.
Yeah, I think it's such a good opportunity, and I think it's also bringing insight. So, like, I'm realizing that just for my correction or my understanding, you always speak about plumbing and electricians. So there's not a lot of electrophysiologists in Africa, but there's a lot of cardiologists.
No, that's relative, because even cardiologists are very, very few. If you think about number of doctor-patient ratio, it's still very few. It's just electrophysiologists are even fewer, right? So let me make an example. Let's say maybe in South Africa, there's like 300 cardiologists. I'm making an example. There'll be only 20 electrophysiologists, right? Serving in South Africa, we just over 60 million people, right? So the ratio is very low. Right? It's worse with the electrophysiologists.
And then what is it? The study intensive? Is it money to go further for people who want to study? How come there's such a few from both cardiologists and electrophysiologists?
Oh man, I think the obvious one is the number of years that you have to put in after you've done grade 12 metric. You know, we've said this before: 7 years medical school, including internship. Now there's community service, which is mandatory. That's additional 2 years. And from there, you can be a family physician or general practitioner. If you want to be a cardiologist, then you have to put 4 years internal medicine. So that's 11, 12 already. Then 3 years of cardiologist, that's 15 years, 16 years. Then 2 extra years of electrophysiology. So you have to put those number of years after you've turned 18 and finish high school. So by the time you finish, a young cardiologist, on average, a very young cardiologist will be 35. That's going to be one of the youngest. And you have to start making a living.
That is
You've incurred so much debt along the way. You may be wanting to start a family, already have a young family, and now to put extra 5 years if you want to be an electrophysiologist, because all electrophysiologists are cardiologists, but not all cardiologists are electrophysiologists. So there's just so much that you need to put in terms of time. But as I said, most of electrophysiologists in Africa have trained overseas. Now you need to get a sponsor. You're 35, 36, or maybe even 37. you've been paying tuition, getting nominal salary. So you probably need a sponsor to go overseas and live in Canada, US, Australia, UK, France, wherever you prefer to be trained at. So it is a lot of money and time. So a lot of people, by the time they are a specialist physician or cardiologist, they are set in terms of lifestyle, in terms of salary, and now to ask that person to then go overseas to do electrophysiology, it's a bit too much. I think those are the two major reasons: money and time.
Is it the same in South Africa as opposed to somebody who's studying medicine in America? Is it longer for us just because it's
No,
in
it's
South
not
Africa?
longer. Not longer. It's just that if you're an American living in US or Canada, you'll be training in your home country, in your home language, same weather, family support system. You are there, you don't have to travel. So here, even if you have money and you've decided you're okay with additional 2 years to uproot your family or even yourself to a different country, it's something. I'll give you an example. Before I went to Canada, I went to Belgium because I got accepted there. So when I went there, one of the few Black people that they immediately assumed that I speak French because Belgium colonized DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, which they speak French, right? Oh, I didn't speak French. That was a problem. Okay. Oh, you're from South Africa? Yo, so your Afrikaans must be good. I'm from KZN. My Afrikaans is not good because Belgian official language is Flemish, which is the closest language to Afrikaans. So those who are very good in Afrikaans from South Africa or from Namibia, those are the two countries that speak Afrikaans in the world, Namibia and South Africa. They do well. They pick up Flemish very easily and they're comfortable. So I had to come back after about 6 weeks because there was a language barrier for me personally.
6 weeks?
Yes, I had to come back. I didn't know, I don't know French. My Afrikaans is not good, so it's going to be difficult for me to learn Flemish. So there are a lot of obstacles out there, but they're not insurmountable. Persistence does pay if you really want to do it. So we in Africa, we have a lot of obstacles in terms of training. But the onus is upon us to make it relatively easier for the younger people who want to train. For instance, I've got connections and contacts where I trained or neighboring universities from where I trained. I can say, look, so and so, I know him or her personally. Can you help?
So I guess, having such organizations like AFHRA, I think bringing in all of that context in terms of the journey that you've had to follow, and now having this organization, which I think in one has innovation, two, there's community involved there because of the traveling and the serving, but also I think it then also forms a sort of a board for the younger generation that's upcoming. And while we're speaking about, I'm excited to know about your trip in Nigeria. I know you're a very reflective person, and I love the stories that you always, tell us when you come back. So what was that trip? Because it was under AFHRA, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So how does that work? Who do you speak to? What do you go to do there?
So as the founder members, we keep in touch all the time. We share cases that maybe are difficult or challenging. You post them to your friends and ask for their opinions. And as part of that knowledge transfer or skill transfer, we always say, okay, where next are we going, right? So this particular time, so the group led largely by Nigerian Americans, this time Dr. Ijeoma, she's based in Texas. So we decided we're going to go to Nigeria. I'd been to Nigeria last time about 2014, but this time was the first time I had to do physical work. So we hooked up and then we stayed in Nigeria, beautiful hotel. And then we always work in public sector, not private sector. Public sector to try and let indigent patients and people who cannot afford this kind of medicine have some access to it. So, and then, we were there for 3 days, working till like 2, 3 in the morning. So it's nice and rewarding.
Who has the cases? Do you already have cases ready? where
Yeah, so
you
we will talk to a local doctor and say, look, we are available around this time, or they will approach us and say, look, we've got this couple of patients that need your expertise, services, and then we work around time. And sometimes, if we're lucky, we get sponsors from companies that we use their products. I'm very fond of Biotronic. I work closely with them. This time it was Boston Scientific. So there are many other private companies that sponsor these trips because we don't get paid to do this work. Actually, we get happy. Maybe that happiness is our form of payment. So they will sponsor us sometimes, and if they can't, then we pay from out of pocket. But it's bigger than just monetary refund. So it's huge. So yeah, we hook up and then we talk to the local doctors and then we go into work.
What are some of the challenges? Well, I'm guessing since you mentioned that there's not a lot of electrophysiologists in those spaces, do you have equipment challenges, and what are some of those things that you have to overcome? Like, are the theaters the same?
Yeah.
And
So we that's a daunting task. In this last trip in Nigeria, if it wasn't for Ijeoma Ikuriage, I may not be getting the pronunciation right, but if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have done the procedures so electrophysiologists and cardiologists, when we do procedures, we need what's called clinical technologists who make sure that all the connections are correct. I mean, you are showing me now this DJI, you have to connect Bluetooth, these physical connections. So without that equipment working well, we can't do procedures. Even if the best electrophysiologists out there, you need technical support. So we didn't have, because it costs money to bring too many people. So it's a huge, huge challenge. And things that you take for granted. I remember maybe 10 years ago, I went to Bulawayo in Zimbabwe to do what I consider a simple procedure that I would do in 2 hours max, maybe 30, 45 minutes. It took me about 36 hours to do just 3 patients because the imaging, we need some form of X-ray to see where we are at, because it's a closed heart procedure. And their X-ray system was overheating. So we will do the procedure, maybe 10 minutes into it, we have to stop and get ice. So this guy who invited me will go to the filling station, buy ice cubes, come back, pat the X-ray machine so that it cools down, and then we do the procedure again. So it was overheating. So a procedure that I would have done here, all 3 patients within, let's say, 9 hours, a day's work, it took like 36 hours without a break of going home, right? So things that you take for granted, what we have, and then you go, so yes, it's always a challenge. I know it's a convoluted answer, but it's a huge challenge. But we're hoping to overcome these things, because the more we do it, the more we can get leverage from governments that, look, we can do this. Can you support your hospital, your people by buying this?
because I think you guys are already, from a monetary point of view, giving so much in terms of you going into public sector, out of pocket and sponsorships.
Yeah.
So I guess it would be a win for those countries to at least invest in the equipment.
Yeah, and I mean, big ups once again to Rwanda, because you get a feel. I've been to Rwanda once, so I'm not an expert in Rwanda, but you get a feel that the government is accommodating people and willing to invest in their own people. So I came back home, and within 2 hours, I went to Rwanda. So I was in Nigeria for 3 days, working, came back home, and then 2 days later, I went to Rwanda. And Rwanda for me was more than just an eye-opening experience. Wonderful things that most people know about Rwanda: cleanliness. Let's just leave that alone. Police presence everywhere, polite, clean, proper uniform, boots polished. You can see that there's a functional and willing government.
Sure.
Huge, huge.
So
And remember this, they started rebuilding when we got our freedom as well, 1994. Yes, they have less challenges than us, maybe because they are a country of only 14 million people, same language,
14, 1 4.
1-4, homogeneous. So I guess it's easy to contain and lead people when they are not that diverse.
Yeah,
But
South Africa is
still, it's
really.
still huge. It's a huge success story for me.
So before we go on to Rwanda, which I'm also excited to know about, I'm interested to know what are some, differences maybe in Nigeria that you saw. Either it could be just culture shock differences, were you observing, or the people engaging with the people, or things that stood out from Nigeria. Just I know you were there for work mainly, but just curious, what are some of the things that you noted that? Oh, okay,
Well, there
that's
was nothing new really because I've been with Nigerian counterparts for the longest time now. And I know their capabilities, the very proud nation, and well traveled, well educated, very smart. So that was not a culture shock. Of course, if you look at Rwanda and Nigeria, they are different structural issues. Um, but obviously, a country like Nigeria, similar to us, there's a lot of diversity in terms of culture, in terms of religion, beliefs, food. It's a massive country, right? The north is very different from the south, right? So it's very, I don't know how many dialects of different languages. So that's a huge difference between Rwanda and Nigeria, or us and Rwanda. So in South Africa, we have those demographics that are very different in terms of race, religion, food, culture, but it's nowhere near as Nigeria. So I think the diversity.
Nigeria has more.
Yes, well, it's a huge country.
Yeah, well, isn't there a population, if I might be mistaken, over 200 million?
Probably.
That's a lot.
There's a lot.
That's
There's a
like,
lot.
what, over three
Yeah,
three times
yeah,
us?
yeah,
3
yeah,
point,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
close
Or
to
close to
four,
4 times.
close to
Yeah,
4 times.
yeah. So like in South Africa, you get like Christians and Muslims, Jews and non-worshippers, but it kind of like don't get, lack of better way, not fanatical. So in Nigeria, they're very religious people, those who are religious. So in South Africa, you get people like me, doesn't really matter, right? So religion, education, social class, social caste, all those things make it difficult for the government to govern people, but doesn't mean that they should not. So I think what makes it better, in my opinion, I keep gravitating to Rwanda, is a smaller country, very homogeneous, so people look the same, and I think most of them are of the same ideology, those who worship. So there's not a lot of differences.
Yeah, so while speaking about Rwanda, and now who led, the team to go there, and
Yeah.
was it the same need as Nigeria also?
Yeah, so it's the same need because they also don't have an electrophysiologist. So there is a guy I met when I was in Nairobi who was trained to become a cardiologist, training at Aga Khan, which is where I go when I go to Kenya. Dr. Willie Mucho, Mucyo Mucho. Very intelligent, dynamic, young guy, young family. So it's probably going to be their first electrophysiologist. So pick up to him.
First electrophysiologist in the country.
Yes. Yeah. It's probably going to be the first.
So this field is it? I know I digress. Is it a new field?
Relatively new field in medicine. So we do. So one of the procedures we do is cauterization of abnormal rhythm that makes your heart go irregular or fast. So one of the things that we do other than devices is to cauterize those abnormal cells inside the heart when we do what's called electrophysiological study, EPS. So the first ablation was, I think, 1989, and you can imagine what has happened since then. So if you want to talk about interventional electrophysiology, that means you intervene and do a procedure rather than just studying and say, okay, you have this, we're going to give you the medication. Now we can say, look, you have this, we can give you medication or do a procedure that might work more than 95% of the time, 80% of the time. It's about 1989, 1988.
Okay.
So it is a relatively, it's almost under 40 years. And
Okay.
that's young in medicine.
It is young. I think also, given that you also explained that in order to even be an electrophysiologist, it takes 16 years. And if this field is 40 years.
Yeah. So you can understand why in middle income and low income countries, that's not a priority. And I like saying this because it's important. While my field, we make a difference, if you are a relatively poor country, that's not where government should invest money. Money should be invested in antenatal care for pregnant women, should be invested in pediatrics to reduce mortality and morbidity, because when kids get all these ailments that are usually preventable, then when they grow older, will have less likelihood of developing some of the things, because it's just some of the things that we deal with, or one of the biggest things that we deal with are social ills. So if you prevent overcrowding, you prevent malnutrition, you may prevent one of the biggest heart diseases in Africa called rheumatic heart disease, where you have to remove a valve and put in artificial valve, and then there comes the word again, inhliziyo wash. So we understand that EP, electrophysiology, which is what I do, is not the first thing that a poor government should invest in. But I think in all the countries, even poor countries, you still have disparities in terms of those who are wealthy, rich, middle class, and poor. So obviously all citizens need to be catered for, but proportionately.
Well said, well said. So as far as procedures is concerned in Rwanda, did you have the same challenges with regards to equipment, and how did you overcome them compared to the trip in Nigeria?
So the trip in Rwanda did not involve physical work. One, it was our maiden meeting since we formed the group. The meeting was supposed to have happened last year, and then there was a Marburg virus outbreak, so it was deferred for a year. So it was our first formal meeting since the inception of our congregation in 2019. So that was for that, just a meeting, a congress, share ideas, publications. We published a paper that was accepted and it was published. And also to touch base with Willie Mucho, Dr. Mucho, so that we could help where we can in terms of placement, in terms of funding, in terms of advice for him to become an electrophysiologist, the first one in Rwanda. So that was just an opportunity for us to hook up with him and see what his needs are and advise accordingly and help where we can.
Yo, that's great. I think another thing that's exciting is the publication. I think you had initially earlier explained to me in regards to the innovations that you create, that you obviously send them out to different publications. I'm not sure if I'm using the right words. How does that work in the field, and what are the different...
Yeah. So part of being a doctor, like maybe others field outside medicine, is innovation. You have to push the envelope. You have to know what works well and what you think will work well next level. Now, if you look at the motor industry, the biggest thing is electric vehicles, EVs. So it's always progress. For us to progress as people, as nations, we need to be pushing envelope and be involved in science. So one of the things, one of the oldest things since maybe 1950s is pacemakers. So traditionally, a pacemaker is when the heart beating so slowly, like 30 or 20, then a doctor puts in a pacemaker, which is just for keeping you alive, improving your quality of life, prolong your life, but not just prolonging your life, but quality life. And that's worked very well. But over the last years, maybe about 30 years, we know that pacemakers also are becoming integral part of heart failure. So remember a couple of episodes ago, we spoke about differences between heart failure, cardiac arrest, and heart attack. So heart failure is one of the biggest issues as we get older as people of the world. And it's worse than many cancers. So it is a malignant condition with poor prognosis if not treated properly. Most of the treatment is medication, but a big subset of patients benefit from pacemakers. So what we've been doing in the last 7 years is looking at ways and means based on the work by other colleagues before us, where we're doing pacemakers slightly differently than the conventional pacemaker for heart failure. So that's what we've been doing. So fortunately, we've been working with Aga Khan in Nairobi. We got our ethics approval. We've got our registry. A registry for us basically means that you put patients together over a period of time and not deviating from the norm, but pushing the envelope a little bit to see if we do this, does it work? Because whenever you do a procedure, the most important thing is not being successful, is to limit damage. It's safety first. So that's what we've been doing for the last 7 years. So we have a registry, so collection of patients, we have over 600 patients in our registry, South Africa largely, and then few in Nairobi. So we have the initial portion, 311 patients. We have long enough follow-up to publish the work. So our publication was based on the work that we've been doing for 7 years and publishing our initial results of 300, just over 300 patients. And so once you've identified what you want to look into, then you get a statistician, you get the colleagues, you analyze the data, you come up with a paper, then you say, okay, where do I want it published? So how do you decide that? Different platforms deal with different kinds of innovation in medicine. Let's say Christian Barnard, 1969, published his first paper on heart transplant. You want to go to the highest impact journal.
Yes, yeah.
It's like news outlets. You've got SAPC1, you've got local radio station, you've got CNN, you've got Sky, you've got Al Jazeera. Those are formidable houses of news. So we've got houses that publish the data. So we've got access to one of the best journals in heart rhythm called Rhythm 02. So we're very excited about that.
Sure. And then how did the publication do? Do you get feedback?
Yeah, we get feedback over a period of time by citation. So that when you talk about a journal or publication, you something called impact factor. How often is it visited? How often is it referenced by your colleagues? So yeah, just like you guys on YouTube, how many likes, how many dislikes? Yeah.
Okay,
so
interesting.
Something similar to that.
So does this mean that what you've published can be used by other cardiologists across the world?
Yeah, so to tell them that this is what we've been doing, how are we different if we are from them, how are we similar to them, because you get different nuances of outcomes based on the same condition. They could look at, for instance, we know that even not among countries, let's say one country. Last time I checked, South African Indians, there was 11% likelihood of them having diabetes, which is a bad condition. So it's very high among Indian people. Hypertension is very high among Black people. Diseases of lifestyle high among white people. So you always get these differences. So a study that was done in Japan may not be as applicable as in Africa or even in China, their neighbors. So we always want to get, for it to be reliable, it needs to be seen to be having the same outcome from different environments, different countries, different racial backgrounds, genetics, and all of that.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like a lot of data goes into this, and I'm realizing that you probably need a good team and you need to be very thorough in what you do. But to the fun part, what are maybe your top 3 or 5, experiences from Rwanda? I think I think one of the things you said Rwanda is one of your favorite countries, and you've traveled. And I was taken aback. I thought maybe you'd say top 3.
Yeah. So I think what amazed me more is that I went there. You know, sometimes someone tells you, "Oh, hey, Mawanda, watch this movie. It's great," and you go there with this preconceived idea. This is a great movie, and we have certain expectations, and it wasn't as good. You know, right?
Yeah.
So I went there to Rwanda already knowing that they're well run, right, as a country. But I was blown away, even though I already knew, but I didn't know it was that good. At least that part of it. I'm not saying Rwanda is free from any other social ills, but what
Yes.
I saw a functional country. I didn't see any potholes. I'm not saying there are no potholes.
But the places you went to.
No one was peeing against the wall. I didn't see anyone parking the car in the open and starting to pee. I didn't see anyone throwing the
Are the
paper
people
out
kind?
of the car. We went out. Yesterday, I went to see Kenichi. I was invited. It was nice. So in congregations, like for instance, we go for a music festival or a function, or you will have a lot of these guys waiting outside to drive you home if you have taken alcohol, right? Why do people do that? Because they know that there is a consequence to your actions. So the policemen are everywhere. If you are caught, you do it. This is what I was told. You will do 5 days in jail, and there's a demerit. So we're supposed to have a demerit here in Mzansi, right? But I'm not sure how well that works. But there it works.
So if you're caught drinking and driving, even with no accidents, just
no, yeah, you will do time, and therefore, and I think it's good because then we got these young people. Then there will be 2 of them on a tuk-tuk. One will jump and drive your car. The other one will follow you. He will drop you at home, and then jump back to a tuk-tuk to pick other people. It's a service, just like Mr. Delivery. Yes. So it creates job for young people out there. So that was shockingly good. You know,
I'm just as shocked.
Yeah. But I think it's this thing that if you think you need to make a ruling and the law, make sure that people follow that. And if people don't follow that, they must know there's a consequence, because you need to govern people.
So they have a good follow-up system. They don't just say things on the news and
And I think, let's be honest, and I'm going to get a backlash from this, is that sometimes you need a dictator if you've got such divergence of opinions and beliefs. You know, people will throw a paper out of the window. I'm creating a job. That's nonsense. That's bullshit, right? So you need to know that if you do that, you're going to do time, or it's going to be a consequence. If you drink and drive, there's going to be a consequence. There's no point saying arrive alive, masi pepe, but you don't do a follow-up on that and making sure that the criminals, because when you get into your car and you are drunk, you're being a criminal. You're putting your life and other people in danger.
That's true.
Yeah, so I was blown away by those just few things.
How are the people? Are they kind? Are they?
Well, I think, I travel a lot in Africa. I think Africans are very kind people, so it wasn't necessarily more kinder than in other country.
Okay.
Yeah. But they will appear kind because they observe the rules and regulations of the country, right?
So
I wouldn't say they are necessarily more nicer than other people, but they're very polite. Same as in Nigeria, in terms of politeness, and here in South Africa, I think people are polite. But if you make people run amok and do as they please, then they will come across as rude and impolite, because you're not giving them a strict roadmap to follow. They do as they wish.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I think you've sold Rwanda to me. I think I'm down to see what's happening.
And I'm definitely going back because, of the gorillas. So we have Big Five in Southern African countries, which is great. They have gorillas. So, but it was I think it was going to be a 2-hour drive from where we were, and I didn't have enough time. So I'm definitely going back for that.
Hey, you're going to stand there and let the gorilla pass you. Hey, that thing looks scary.
Well, I've never seen a gorilla. The animal that probably I'm more scared of, and I've seen it quite close, is an elephant by sheer mass of the elephant. And of course, because we know that there are certain incidences where they attack people. So I don't think gorilla is as big as average size elephant, but I'm sure it's massive.
Yeah, it is. I think for me, with the gorilla, elephant, it's big, it's scary, but I think you have the subconscious thought of maybe I can outrun it.
No, okay,
I know you can't, but a gorilla, that
most four-legged animals would catch up with you. You know, elephant, you can't outrun an elephant. You can't outrun a hippo. You just cannot.
Yeah. Maybe the adrenaline would kick in.
Well, try it out, bro.
We're not trying to. This is so good. I think this is very encouraging in terms of just obviously speaking about the trips, but looking at the work that you're going back as the AFHRA to do in the countries that obviously where you're from and that have empowered you to be able to be where you are. Are there any, in closing, maybe, lessons for us, maybe as South Africans, of different programs we can do, or just encouraging young doctors to be involved in such programs just to give back?
Yeah, I think exposure is one of the biggest things, whatever it is. I think the more you know, the better for you in terms of deciding what kind of a doctor you want to be, because sometimes you learn about these things and you're already like 40, like, I'm not going back, but I wish I'd known. So just putting it out there that there are these possibilities. Number two is the kind of work that if you become an electrophysiologist, is very elective. Once again, we've touched bases on medicine and gender. So it gives time to spend time with the family because it's elective. You generally don't work weekends, you don't work too late. So it's a kind of an option if you want that kind of lifestyle. And because there is a need for it, right? Once again, for low income and middle income countries, it's not the most important thing. Malnutrition, social issues need to be attended to, but there are patients, because now we live longer, we'll have all these degenerative conditions that electrophysiology has a big role to play in. So just knowing about the possibility of, or the existence of this subspecialty is important, because then there are patients who definitely benefit from electrophysiological interventions, and also as a career choice. It's important to know. Yeah.
Well, Dr. V, it's been another good episode.
Thank you very much.
About your travels and how that was.
Yeah.
We're excited for the next episode. And is there any fun things that you're going to be getting up to in the next couple of months or weeks?
Well, I'm looking forward to go to Botswana and do apparently they've got one of the best Big Five. I like going to the wild, but I've only seen the leopard once.
I haven't
cheetah once. Yeah,
the leopard for me more than anything.
And it's like a dot in my camera because it was just so far that it's really not even a picture. So I have to convince you that that's a leopard. So hopefully I'm meeting up with my ex-boss from Canada, Ottawa Heart Institute in Ontario. So he's coming in. So we're meeting in Botswana. That's not work.
That's just resetting. Before.
But I'll try and connect with the doctors there and see if we can extend the auspices of AFHRA.
Sure. You're always adding some work in there. Doc, thank you so much for another episode. It's been good.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to see you guys in the next episode of Rhythm Unplugged with Creative Replay with the new Apparel Creative Collective.